Okay, so we're going to finish hopefully today the letter number 9. I'm going to recap some of it because I also want to take it to another understanding, if we could. So inside the Sefer in the book, we're going to be on page Kuf Yud Daled, which is equivalent of 227. But first, take a few minutes to go back and discuss. So this letter again is a radical letter. When I say radical, it demands a complete change of perspective. So I'll give you the perspective how it was before this chapter and what this chapter sort of introduced to us when the Rebbe wrote this letter, when the Alter Rebbe wrote this letter. And that is as follows. The original way to see the Mitzvah of Tzedoka is a person goes and has a job and works and earns money, and then you take care of your family, you cover your expenses, you take your things you have to do, and then you take a significant amount, usually about 10%, and you give that to charity. That's how we understood the Mitzvah of Tzedakah normally. And in some cases you give more, in some cases you give, however you can do it.
You're saying that that's the same of Meiser?
Yeah, Meiser, Tzedakah. Okay. Or you give Tzedakah when a poor person knocks on your door, all the ways that you give Tzedakah. Says the Alter Rebbe, no, I want to give a whole different perspective. That sort of perspective tells you that there are two worlds. There's the world of Torah and godliness, and there's my world. The world of Torah and godliness, when I'm in the shul and I'm davening, but when I go to work, the money's mine. Now I take some of that money and some of that private space that I have, and I give it to tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe says that we know Goy Echad Ba'aretz means even when we're in Aretz, even when we're in the land, we're still living the world of Goy Echad, the oneness of God. What does that mean? There's no separation between godliness, the shul, davening, holiness, and our work. Our work is holy too. So it's not that we have our work that is mundane and we take some of that work and we sanctify by giving tzedakah. You know what we're going to do? Like when you say, I have a house. It's my personal space, and I have my living room, my dining room, my gym, and I put up a mezuzah because I also know about God, and I have some holy books, and I have a Shabbos table. No. I have a holy house, just like I have a holy shul, just like I have a holy soul. In other words, the Alter is telling us there's no such a thing as a separation. The job is not, you're not being a false witness when you say, Hashem, Shema Yisrael, Hashem, L'chinu Hashem Echad. Hashem is the only thing that exists, and then you close the sinner and you go out to your job, which is separate from God. That means you were dishonest. You said it's all about God, only thing that exists, and then you went to a space that's ungodly, separate from God. The Alter Rebbe says that every single part of your life, every single aspect of your life is godly. Going to work is holy, and eating a sandwich is holy, and eating breakfast is holy, and going to the gym is holy. Everything is holy, and your work is holy too. That's layer 1 that we spoke about last week. Let's take it one layer deeper. When I earn money, I have a mitzvah to give tzedakah. But the truth is, something even more beautiful. I don't have just a mitzvah to give tzedakah. I have a mitzvah to support my family. In other words, I got to give tzedakah to my family. I got to give tzedakah to my own needs. I got to give tzedakah to my children, to my wife, to my mortgage. I got that's tzedakah too. The Torah tells you, I have good news for you. Your tzedakah comes before other tzedakahs, which means your personal tzedakah for your children and your wife comes before everybody else. Now we have a new perspective. What does that mean? That the world of tzedakah is not that I earn money, which is mine, that I give some of that tzedakah. When I take care of my own family, that's tzedakah too. What does it mean that's tzedakah? It's a mitzvah from God to give of your income to a certain amount to your wife, a certain amount to your guests, a certain amount to the poor people, a certain amount to the shul. In other words, the tzedakah that you're giving is equal responsibility to your wife, your kids, and the poor man that you don't know. The difference is you come first. And the good news is you get the most of it. You don't have to buy the poor man a nice Lexus, but you could buy yourself a Lexus. You don't have to buy the poor man, a Coach pocketbook, but you can buy yourself a Coach pocketbook. In other words, I don't know what that is exactly. I just know it's a good pocketbook. But bottom line is the mitzvah of tzedakah is no different for you and the stranger, except that you come first. Then we take it one step further. This is the layer of we're going to this right now. There's a beautiful book written by a man named Katz. Forget his first name right now. It's about how to daven, and he explains how to daven properly, how to be a chassid and daven like a mensch. And his first thing he tells you is, davening does not start in the morning. To daven like a chassid, like a yid, starts the night before when you say the Shema. When you get ready to go to bed, when you say Shema, it's the first part of davening. In other words, if you want the next morning, it's no different. Let's say tomorrow, you have to run a marathon. You start the night before what you're eating for supper will affect your marathon. If you're going to have a bunch of pizza and hot dogs, not the same, of course, pizza or hot dogs, or if you're going to have, the right type of starches and whatever is healthy food to eat for a race, and how much sleep you have, and how you prepare yourself, and how you stretch, and the morning you get up. In other words, davening doesn't start when you open the siddur. Davening starts before that, when you get up in the morning and you prepare some chassidus, you wash legavasser, you get a good night's sleep, you go to say Shema. In other words, davening starts much earlier. Says the Alter Rebbe here, he's telling us, in other words, the Mitzvah of Tzedoka doesn't start when you take the money out of your bank account to give tzedakah. When you get up in the morning, you got to go to work. Why are you going to work? You're going to work to make money? You're going to work for what? I'm going to work so I can give tzedakah. Meaning, the reason why I go to work in the morning is not because I want to have, this is addition to being holy in general. I'm going to work because I want to make money so I can give tzedakah. Says the Alter Rebbe, the word's paradigm shift, but it's a complete change of how you see it. You're not going to work to make money and some of that money to give tzedakah. I'm going to work so I can give tzedakah. Why do I go to work in the morning? To make money for my family? That too. That's also tzedakah. To support my kids. That's also tzedakah. Pay for the tuition. But the reason I go to work in the morning, the reason I have a job, is so I can give tzedakah. What do you think? What other reason is there? This is a whole different shift of how you see the whole idea of giving tzedakah. This story actually, this insight, actually, when I was learning it, I thought, hey, now I understand the beautiful thing I saw. There's a lot of clips of videos you can watch of the Rebbe, of different things, of dollars. There's one video where this person goes by the Rebbe, and he tells the Rebbe, it's like $1, and he says, I earned enough money to live the rest of my life. He's in his mid-60s, whatever he is, young guy, and I think I'm going to retire because I earn enough to, why should I keep working? I mean, just take more and more money. What's the point? I'll retire, spend time with my family, whatever the whole point he made is. Rebbe said, why would you stop working? The more money you make, the more tzedakah you can give. And I've encouraged him to keep working, and there's a lot of depth, a lot of insights in the general about the Rebbe's opinion, people being active and being functioning. But this point that if you look at this story on the lens of this chapter of Tanya, if you're going to work in the morning to support your family, you're right. After a certain point, I'm done. Why should I keep going to work? My family has enough money to live. But if you're going to work to give tzedakah, every day you're going to work and give more tzedakah. You can support the poor in Israel. You can support a local shul. You can support, programs and activities. You can support, families that need money, pay for kids to have schools. In other words, the going to work in the morning is a whole different shift. Now we go back and say, when we said at the beginning of this chapter, I mentioned at the very beginning today, that your whole work is holy too. What does it mean holy? Originally we thought it's holy. Why is it holy? Because I go to work, I earn money, and I can buy a lulav, and I can buy an esrog, and I could buy some of my kids to Jewish schools. Here he's saying something much bigger. Not you going to work and you could. The reason you go to work is so you should. In other words, it's not that because you're going to work, you also do good stuff with the money. That's why you go to work. And then you can also do personal stuff with the money. No difference if you think about it when an employer gives an employee some stuff. They give you either a car because you're a driver, or they give you a computer and a desk because you're going to work on a desk, or they give you tools because you're going to be building stuff. You are given those tools so you can do the job for which you were hired for. It happens to be that sometimes you're also going to use a computer, send the email to your brother to catch up on something. You might, with your car, pick up a friend and go to okay, that's fine. The company doesn't mind that. But you remember why you were given the car in the first place, why you were given the computer in the first place, is because you have a job to do. When Hashem gives us money, Hashem gives us a job, Hashem gives us life. One way is I have my life, but I also, in recognition, give some to God. Or my life is, my job is, my work is, my day is serving God. Included in that is taking care of myself. My boss wants me to have a healthy body, a happy lifestyle, a healthy family, a good, comfortable couch, a beautiful, air conditioning system, and a nice place to relax on weekends, or a house in Israel or in Florida, because that's what makes me a more functioning and more successful. Because the more properties you own, the more places you're putting on mezuzahs, and the more places you're lighting Shabbos candles, having guests, etc. In other words, it's a whole different way, a whole different understanding how to see the role of the job and the mitzvah of tzedakah. So tzedakah does not start when you earn your money. Tzedakah starts when you go to work in the morning. So that's the first point you want to share on this chapter, on this second half of the chapter. The result of that is one more thing. The result of that is, good morning. is that I end up being much more like God. In other words, one of the things you want to do, the reason why we give tzedakah is not because we're compassionate people. That means I'm doing tzedakah because it makes me feel good. If I'm giving tzedakah because I'm compassionate, this goes back to the original statement. Anyone could do that. You don't have to be Jewish to do that. Every normal, kind, healthy, happy Gentile could give tzedakah because they're compassionate. They're kind, they're caring. Meaning, why are they giving tzedakah? Because I feel it's the right thing to do. It feels like this is, I see a poor person. I'm not even talking about the lower level where I can't enjoy my lunch when he's hungry. That's really selfish. I can't enjoy my lunch, so I'll give him tzedakah, so I should even enjoy my lunch. I'm talking about that I care about that person. I'll give up my lunch for him. But that's all working because it makes sense to me. But that's meaning it's my money, and I feel this is the right thing for me to do. Here the Alter Rebbe is telling us this is a whole different change. The reason why you earn money in the first place was never about you, was never for self. The same reason why God gave you a talent to be a singer or a writer or a computer scientist was not for self, was to do your part in making this world a greater place, as we'll see at the end of this chapter. In other words, the purpose and the reason that we're given the money is for doing the tzedakah. The tzedakah is the purpose. This is a complete change of how to see the mitzvah of tzedakah and how to see our interaction with the world. Now, it doesn't mean that someone else has rights to our money. It's not a communist perspective. It doesn't mean that, one second, so your money is my money. This is how you should feel. Don't go over to you and say, listen, your money doesn't really belong to you. No, my money belongs to me. This is how I understand that God entrusted me with this money because he felt that I'll do the right thing. And certainly will do the right thing. Now, again, this is why the Alter Rebbe starts off this chapter. There's different comments the Rebbe makes on this chapter. Why he starts off with the words. If you look at the very beginning, he started off, my beloved, my brother, my friend, whose soul I come. Why such? Because he's telling us something very hard. This concept here is very easy to say in a class. Very easy to learn about it. To say, never get mad at your kids when they. It's very easy to say this is the perspective to have, but to truly feel this way takes a lot of work. So the Alter Rebbe says, when you become my truly beloved, when you experience this. This is very similar to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, when famously he went to the soul of Mashiach, famous Rosh Hashanah. He went up to heaven, he visited the soul of Mashiach, and he said, when are you coming? He said, when your well springs will spread forth. And the question is, what was he saying exactly? We already had the famous discussion, when's Mashiach coming? When all the Jews will keep the Torah. So meaning, this is what Rabbi Yeshua Levi asked Mashiach this question years before. So what the answer is, what happened was God told Yeshua Levi, the Mashiach told Yeshua Levi, when will I come? When all the Jewish people reach the level of holiness. When everybody listens to my words, everyone becomes holy. That's what the soul of Mashiach told 1,000 years ago, 1,800 years ago. The Baal Shem Tov, who saw every Jew in the best light, he saw each Jew as a holy, perfect person. He comes and he says, okay, I look around, I see all the Jews are perfect. When you're coming, he says, when your well springs will spill forth, everyone will get me. What does that mean? When everyone sees the world the way you see, when everyone sees a fellow Jew the way you see it, Mashiach will come. It's true. In your eyes, you only see the good. You see every single Jew, every single person as perfect, as wholesome, and you understand their journey, you understand them. There's no negative critique. But when your well springs will spill forth, when you see it, then Mashiach, when everyone else will see the world the way you see it, then Mashiach will come. In other words, the Alter Rebbe is telling us, you want to know how to become truly loved like the way I see people the way I see people. You want to meaning the relationship that I have with you, I see you and I love you. That's how you should see every other person. To get to that level is a tremendous Aveda, and this is why he gives us his push. But to get to that point where we see our job and our life and our existence as a pure ambassador of Hashem, and everything doing is his role, that's amazing. And we could do it in pieces and parts. Okay, that's the first half of the chapter. That's what we're up to there. I want to add a little depth to it. Now we're halfway down Kuf Yadal, the last two words on the line. Al-Kain, therefore, he continues again, Ahuvai, Achai, my beloved, my brothers. I just told you something really powerful. You're going to work in the morning is the first stage of giving tzedakah. You're going to gather the money. It's like how do you make a cake? The first thing is you go to the store and you buy the ingredients. Well, you grow them in the backyard if you're really cool. But how do you do it? You start off. So I'm starting to make the cake. So he says, how do you do tzedakah? First, go get a job. Okay, I might have to go to college first. First, you have to eat breakfast in the morning and grow up and be a big boy, a big girl. Meaning, all that is all part of the master plan, the big point, the big goal. He said, now, put your hearts, place your hearts in the right place. And meaning to what I'm. This is something I'm telling you very short. In the introduction to Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that there's certain things that you can't give over in a book. When you're talking to somebody, you could look into the eyes of the person you're talking to, and you can sense if you have to be more emphatic, more gentle, stronger, more explaining. And the person sees your body language. There's a lot given over in body language and in talking when you talk in person. I write it in a book. You don't know if I said, hey, please come here. Hey, please come here. Hey, please come here. Meaning you can't get everything given over. So therefore, he says, my book is limited. And he hopes he has chassidim who will do the job of those who don't pick up the messages to learn what he says in Tanya. This is meant to be an answer to all life's questions. That's what he says in the introduction. He answers all of our questions about life. He says, so here, I'm saying this very briefly. And he says, V'mirtz Hashem, hopefully, usually he says, have someone explain it to you. Here he says, V'mirtz Hashem, God willing, ponim el ponim adaber bam barucha. When I have a chance in person, I'll explain to you more at great length. Again, he wrote this letter about 20 years before his arrest and liberation. The whole story with him happened in 1790s, 1797, 1798. So this is talking about the 1770s. He wrote this. So obviously he had a much more time to encounter and interact with the Chassidim after this. But he said, I'll hopefully talk to you about this more in person. What do we want to talk about? He's going to say something fantastic here. And this is really very personally to our generation. He says, our generation is different than all the other generations. I just want to take a step back and explain some of this. We see, and we spoke about this in the very beginning of Tanya chapter 2, we see every generation as every person in that generation made up of a different part of the body of God, of men. That means one person is the heart, one person is the eyes, one person is the feet, one person is the ears. And depending what part of the body you come from spiritually, that will depend also a lot on your character. Are you a creative person? Are you a compassionate person? Are you a doer? Are you a goer? Are you every person, based on what the nature of that body part is, what part we come from. And together as a whole, the whole generation that's alive makes up the body of the Jewish people, the Adam of the Jewish people. But the same thing is true about historically. Historically, and in every generation, of course, you have the brain, which is the tzaddik of the generation. Historically, every generation, starting from Adam, was the head. Then we came to the neck. Then we came to the shoulders, the arms, the heart, the feet. Our generation, just before Mashiach is coming, we're called the heels. We're called the heels of the generation. So the question is, well, that feels good. Thank you. That's very motivating. So I want to let you know, you're the worst kid in the class. Now here's what I'd like you to know. Oh, thank you very much. We are the lowest. And in this generation itself, you might just be the foot also. You can be the foot of the foot. The generation's the foot, the heel, and you might be the toe. What is it? So he said like this. The idea that the generations are different is not a mess up. It's not sort of like God was running out of, equipment. Okay, the first generation, I'm giving you high, quality stuff. Now we're giving medium quality, now low quality. Okay, you guys are sorry. All we have left is like base economy. You're sitting in the plane with the squish seat. Different. The Shekhinah that Hashem put into this world had a point of every generation elevating another part of the world. And as the higher parts were elevated, he gave the next team of experts, the next people born, the gifts to elevate the next part of the world. And the next generation was the gifts to. So every generation had to do, like the electrician does electrician work. Your plumbers, you don't call the plumbers do electrician work. Hey, why did they get it before me? Where's the guy who put in the footings? You didn't call me. You weren't up to the electric yet. So every generation has their part to do as the Shekhinah descends further and further into this world. Hashem had a master plan designed that every generation has its particular mission, and the people of that generation designed with those particular skills. In some generations, they were the minds. They had to put together the Talmud, put together the Mishnah. Some were the hearts. They put together all the levels of Musar and understanding and feelings. Some were every generation. And as you get lower and lower, we're given special tools to do things that our generation can handle, which means it wasn't sort of that Hashem tried the same thing over and over, and it wasn't working. It was where he's trying everything else. Okay, now we'll try this. No, every generation did their job. That means we mentioned a couple times that not only does every person, not only does every single thing in this world have to be elevated, but every single person has a part that you have to elevate in the world. I have to elevate maybe one house in Texas, one house in New York, and one house in Wisconsin. That's why I live part of my life in Texas, part of my life in New York, part of my life there. And if I have to end up going on a bus or a train to a random city, There was something for me to do there, and I have to find out what it is. It wasn't random. That means everyone has their particular sparks. And not just that. There's a particular time you have to do it. And if you miss that time, you missed it. You have to do it on before Wednesday. You have to do it when you're 15, when you're 35. And that's why when opportunity comes, you don't push it off. This is the chance I have to do this mitzvah at this particular time. Let's do it. Our generation has the part of the world to elevate, which is the lowest part of the world, the ultimate, the actual. And to do that, Hashem designed souls. In the original plan, years ago when he created the world, he designed souls that are expert in action. We are, not that we don't have intellectual capabilities and other smarts, but our gift is that we are doers. We're the generation that gets things done. And if you look at historically, the amount of things that were created, invented, and done in the physical world in the last 200-300 years, since the times of the Alter Rebbe, is unbelievable, mind-boggling compared to the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years before. What happened? It took them so long to invent, first they invented a wheel, and now we got these computer chips. I mean, how'd that happen? Because we are the generation that does things in the physical realm. We create, we manufacture, we do. That's what we are. We are that. Therefore, our generation, says Alter Rebbe, our particular role in the olden days, the primary thing was study of Torah. Study of Torah is the biggest thing. Connected Kol Mitzvah. Now our generation, actions of kindness. And we'll see why it's tzedakah more than any other act. We'll see in a minute. Let's see this inside. He says, first of all, I want you to understand, he says, that our generation, our role, our responsibility, our journey is different than the other generations. We're not meant to spend most of our day studying Torah. Not supposed to compose a Talmud, compose a Mishnah, write the Rambam. That was done already. He says, Avedas Hashem be'itim halol in these days, be'ikvais Mashiach, on the footsteps, the heels of Mashiach, he Avedas Hatzdaka is particularly the mitzvah of tzedakah. Kamasha Kosev and Azalak, our sages tell us, Ein Yisrael Negolan Ela B'Tzedakah, our redemption will come particularly through tzedakah. I mentioned this a while ago, a very beautiful insight I heard, that when we say the first blessing of the Amidah, Baruch Atah Hashem, we start off with Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, right? Avram, we know, is chesed, kindness. Yitzchak is the study of Torah, and Yaakov is, Yitzchak is prayer, and Yaakov is the study of Torah. And when we finish the blessing, we say Magen Avram. We don't say Magen Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Why don't we say the shield of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? We start off Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. And we come to the end of the blessing, we say Magen Avram. So we say this first blessing spans the whole history of the Jewish people. In the earlier times, we had to focus on all three things. We had to focus on the study of Torah, focus on this action of prayer, being deep, deep prayer, and focus on acts of kindness. Our generation, our quality is tzedakah. If you look around the world today, the Jewish people are the biggest givers of tzedakah in the world, way, 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 many times ahead of anybody else. Our generation, our mitzvah, yes, you have to daven, and you have to learn, and you have to light Shabbos candles, and you have to do all the mitzvot. But where do we have the oomph? What's our special gift that's going to protect us and guide us? It's tzedakah. In our generation, now, the question, why tzedakah? Why don't we say, what are action mitzvahs? Talk about putting on tefillin. Let's talk about putting up mezuzah. These are all tzedakah. Lulav and Esther, that's a good one. I mean, they're all action, all tzedakah. They're all action mitzvahs. So there's a difference between tzedakah and every other mitzvah. And it's an interesting thing. We say tzedakah, you don't have to have thought why you're doing it. For example, if I accidentally shake a little without knowing about it, I can really fulfill the mitzvah. You have to know you're shaking a little sitting in the sukkah. You have to know. If I accidentally gave tzedakah, how do you accidentally give tzedakah? I lost $1. A poor man found it and bought himself lunch. Well, now you got to say $20 to buy lunch. But he bought himself lunch. I get the mitzvah of tzedakah. Why does it work that way? Very interesting. Every other mitzvah without a Torah is illogical. Okay, go take now the branch of a lulav, the twigs of myrtle twigs and willow twigs and a lemon, and shake it. Guys, look at you. Okay, that looks very much like a new type of yoga. It's really nice, very good. There's essential oils in there. What's the experience? No one knows what it is. Doesn't make any sense. But if someone sees me going and give $1 to a poor person, no one has a question. Why? Because down here in this physical world, tzedakah makes sense. No other mitzvah makes sense unless you explain it. Tzedakah is the action mitzvah that makes sense. That means it has come down the lowest, and if other mitzvahs need to be understood. Like, let me explain to you what we're doing. Let me have kavanah, why I'm taking lulav and esrog. The reason I have to explain tzedakah is because it's so rational and came down so into the physical world. We look at it as because it makes sense. The real reason is because it came down this way. Hashem could have made that lulav and esrog make sense, and tzedakah doesn't. We could look at a guy giving tzedakah like, why would you put a piece of paper money in someone's hand? Oh, you're helping him out, And lulav, that makes a lot of sense. Hashem made it. The lulav makes no sense because it stayed up at a higher level. Tzedakah makes sense. So this mitzvah of tzedakah is considered the lowest of all the mitzvahs. It came down the lowest. And with this one, we could change the world. You could change. You have someone come to your house, give them a cup of coffee. Someone comes to your house and sleeps over in a bed. You give someone a ride in the car. Acts of kindness, tzedakah. This is the one thing that everyone understands, and this is the one thing that really transforms the world that our generation is supposed to do. We are electricians putting in electricity, meaning our job is not that we came late, so we're not smart enough. So, okay, you carry the packages to the car. No, okay, you'll carry the heavy boxes. We are the ones designed. Previous generations couldn't do this. If they were told to get stuck like this, are you kidding me? It doesn't make any sense. I just spent the last 6 days earning this much money. Now I should give it to this poor guy. I should pay for this guy's. Why? We do it, and we do it even though people who aren't that religious, even people that don't understand so much, even people that are putting on film every day, give tzedakah in tremendous amounts. Sometimes that tzedakah target is weird. They're sponsoring an aquarium in Atlanta for $50 million. Why? I don't know. But a Jewish guy did that because we're philanthropists. So we do it. Sometimes it's okay. The fish will be okay without that. But okay. But the bottom line is that the Chacham Gedolim, when they said in the earlier, we have in Pirkei Avos, it says, when did they say that Talmud Torah is equal to all the mitzvahs, including Gemach? Because in those days, Talmud Torah study was the main thing. Back then, the main thing of the day. What do you do when you have 3 minutes? Go and learn Torah. Today, you have some time. Go and do a mitzvah. Go and help somebody. Go and do act of kindness. Give someone a ride. That's why those days there were the sages, the authors of the Mishnah, the authors of the Talmud. Those were the parts of the human body. The journey of the Jewish experience over history was the role of intellectual and judicial construction. But on the other hand, when we're talking about the heels just before Mashiach's coming, David. An interesting thing, we say a prayer always on Sukkot. We say Harachamon Yakim Lanu as Sukkos David Hanefeles. May Hashem, who has mercy, rebuild the fallen Sukkah of David. But the truth is that's not the right translation. It's not the fallen Sukkos of David. It's called the falling. Nefeles is a present tense. It's falling. Every generation is called in Hebrew Yerides Haderes. The Shechina, which came down to the Jewish people, every generation goes lower and lower and lower. There's a famous joke story. If it's true or not, doesn't really matter. But there's a story that I've heard many times, different people. That is, that there's an older guy on an airplane with his grandson or a son. And his son is very respectful to him and very kind to him. And there's another guy sitting next to him, an older guy. I don't know if he's Jewish or not, some other person. He turns to him and says, how is it that your grandson is so respectful to you? And my grandson, he treats me like I'm old-fashioned, like I don't get it. I'm old school. I don't. She said, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in evolution? He said, of course. He goes, that's your problem. He says, your son looks at you, you're one generation closer to a monkey. He said, we believe in creation. I'm one generation closer to God. He said, so in the Jewish experience, as you go back and back, you're going higher and higher. We're not evolving, we're actually getting lower, but for a purpose. And the world's perspective is every generation is more designed, more intellectual, greater. Why should I listen to the old generation? They don't get it. They're one level down. We're evolving. In other words, Torah's perspective is that every generation we're going down further and further, but not because we're failing, because we have a different mission. No different than we'll tell you now. We're getting to the nitty-gritty, the finest elevation. We're elevating the bottom. We're getting down to the crux, the bottom of the story. Now we're going to elevate even the physical crust of the earth, even the physical cows, everything's being elevated. That's what it says here. We say that Sukkos David, that the sukkah of David has fallen, meaning it keeps falling at bechinas reglayim v'ikviyim shehi bechinas asiyah. It comes down to the level of asiyah. In the world of the Sukkos David is also known as Malchus. David is called Malchus, as we know, and Sukkos David is called Malchus Atzilus. Malchus Atzilus is the lowest level of the highest world. The world of Atzilus is the highest world is Atzilus. Malchus is the bottom of that world. That's King David coming down into the world. Below that is Beria, then Yetzirah and Asiya. Each world represents not just a world, but also a certain nature of thought, speech, action. As you come down into the lowest of the world, Bria is thought, Yetzirah is speech, and Asiya is action. You see, thought and speech are considered higher qualities, not just because they're more intellectual and more deeper parts of the soul, because the nature is to give. What does it mean? A thought could develop into speech. Speech, talking about something, could lead to doing the thing. We always say be careful talking autonomy with the Arabs because you end up giving to what we have now. The Rebbe warned, don't talk about it. Don't discuss things because you end up doing it. Don't talk about things you don't want to do at the end. Speech, action is the end of the road. After action, what comes next? It's done. So meaning the action is the one of these three that doesn't give, has nothing to give to someone else. We say in general, one who gives to others is always alive. The less you give, it's a sign of no life. A sign of life is that you give, that you're constantly giving off something. Therefore, Asiya represents the lowest world of the world of action. And that's why Asiya, the world of Asiya, is also called Asiya action, where it's the last step in the journey of thought, speech, and action. So we say like this. In this world that we live in today, and coming to this very time, the end of the journey of the Jewish people in exile coming to Mashiach, there is no way to truly cleave to God, to do our job, to transform the darkness to the light that it should be. And therefore, we also have to have the action today, which is talking about tzedakah. So how does a person today in 2025 fulfill their mission, their purpose? Go take a nickel and put it into a charity box. If we would know how powerful that is, we would put it in 2 nickels. In other words, the power and the mitzvah and the benefit of tzedakah is the all of our life today. That's the journey. Like the great scholars know, those who understand what Asiya is in the deepest and spirituality know that it's the drawing down of godliness lower and lower to where? To the place that there is nothing of its own. In other words, when you take a poor person who doesn't have and you give, that's the end of the line. That is the actual most beautiful expression. If you could take somebody who has nothing and you're not going to get anything back from him, you're just giving him a sandwich, giving him $10, giving tzedakah. This is the greatest revelation of godliness that you can do. Bring down godliness to those who don't have their own. And he says, anybody who overcomes their impulses, Yitzra usually means impulse or your nature. Our nature is when we have something for ourselves. You have a little child, doesn't want to share the cookie. Why? Because his impulse, his natural thing is, it's mine. As the child matures, it doesn't mean that he's bad or cruel or evil. He just doesn't know how to share because the body is born with first comes in the physical body. Every day we say first, Asher Yatzar, then Elakain Yatzar. Asher Yatzar is the body. Elakain Yatzar is thanking God for our soul. Why do we say the body first? Because first came your body, the soul came later. So the body's nature and impulse is take care of self. I have one cookie, I want it. I'm tired, I'll wake up my mother. Why? Because you're a baby and you don't think. But as you grow older, you learn to share. So meaning the action to sharing, giving away of yourself, that's a learned behavior. It's a great gift. And it takes somebody overcoming their impulse. So if you earn money, it's not natural to give it to someone else. Maybe you had parents that taught you that when you were very young, so it became your nature. But naturally, you don't give of your own to others. It doesn't make any sense. If it's mine, why should I give it to you? But if you have a mind and a heart, and you care, and you're compassionate, and you're observant, and you're spiritual, and you're religious, you say, you know what? I know I worked hard for this. I know I just got this, but I want to share it because it's what I should be doing. So he says, is someone who sacrifices his impulse. And he opens up his heart, and he opens up his hand and his heart. He is holding back the negative forces of the world. And is transforming the darkness into godly light. That dwells amongst us in the way of Asiya, as it should be in action, in the literally minutes and the heels of the existence before Mashiach comes. You will merit not only to understand godliness, but to see godliness, because the blessing, the result of doing physical mitzvahs, that your physical body will see God. What does that mean? Right now, our physical body doesn't see God. I look around, I see bookcases, I see everything. Where do I see godliness? In the smile of a baby, in the people coming out of these hostages putting on tefillin, the mezuzah, the people giving the selfless act. The moments this is godly. It's like I'm inspired to be on. It's sad to be inspired by such things, but the events in the last months of people, unbelievable levels of spiritual strength. It's incredible. That's the most godliness I can see. Mashiach comes because a physical eye can't see godliness any more than that someone could hold up a bag of ideas. Like, I have an idea here. Hold it with me. It's like You can't. That thought is so deep. Let's hold it together. It's like there's no thing to hold. You can't. The physical eye doesn't have the abilities to see things that don't have physical structure. When Mashiach comes, Hashem will do the miracle and bring our eyes to a level that even though, like it says when the Yidden were standing at Sinai, their eyes could see the sound and their ears could hear the vision. What does that mean? It no longer were limited by their physical limitations. So the result of the action at tzedakah will be when Mashiach comes, we'll see face to face, eye to eye, godliness. B'shuv Hashem tziyah, when Hashem returns Jerusalem to its stature as meant to be. So this is the chapter 9, the letter number 9.